the unstoppable force. Today, we're talking about a boxer whose very name sent shockwaves through the world. A fighter whose fists didn't just shake the ring, they shook the very foundation of boxing. Yes, we're talking about none other than Iron Mike. Mike Tyson! Hailing from Brooklyn, New York, this 5'10" powerhouse earned the title KO Machine early in his career. And it wasn't just hype. Mike Tyson won his first 19 professional fights by knockout, 12 of them ending in the very first round. Just imagine, before his opponents could even catch their breath, one punch from Tyson, and the fight was over. According to Forbes, Tyson didn't suffer his first professional loss until his 38th fight, which means he remained undefeated through nearly 40 bouts. He wasn't just a boxing champion. He was a storm of rage, power, speed, and precision. Mike Tyson didn't just fight, he roared through the ring and carved his name into the history books as a living legend, a force the world will never forget, who didn't just rule the boxing ring. He ruled hearts, minds, and changed the course of history. Yes, we're talking about the greatest, Muhammad Ali. 50 wins, only 5 losses, and 37 knockouts. That's the record that made Muhammad Ali the most iconic heavyweight boxer of all time. But Ali wasn't just a fighter. He was a revolution, a voice, and a force of nature. In the 1960s, while the world was shifting, Ali stood tall with his unique style, unmatched confidence, and bold personality, captivating millions both in and out of the ring. His footwork was poetry. His words, sharper than any punch. And who can forget his legendary quote, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." Muhammad Ali didn't just throw punches. He stood up against racism, war, and injustice, becoming a global symbol of courage and resistance. He was the king of the ring, but his impact reached far beyond boxing. To this day, he remains a champion of the people, a legend the world will never forget. When the echo of Muhammad Ali had filled every corner of the boxing world, another name began to rise in the ring, a name that didn't talk much, but when he punched, it felt like thunder. Yes, we're talking about Smokin' Joe Frazier. With 31 wins, 4 losses, and 27 knockouts, Frazier quietly built a legacy of pure power and relentless heart. But the fight that forever carved his name in history was his legendary 1971 showdown against Muhammad Ali, the match the world came to know as the fight of the century. This wasn't just a fight, it was a collision of two titans, Ali's words and finesse versus Frazier's raw fire and grit. That unforgettable night, Joe Frazier became the first man to defeat Muhammad Ali and proved to the world that some wars aren't won by words, but by punches. Frazier claimed the heavyweight championship, but his reign didn't last long. In 1973, a young powerhouse stepped into the ring and delivered a crushing knockout that took the title away. That fight was so iconic, Bleacher Report called it the ring fight of the year. Joe Frazier was a silent storm, a fighter who showed the world that true greatness doesn't shout, it shows. Stepping into the ring next was a man who didn't just beat Joe Frazier. He destroyed him, George Foreman. A powerhouse from Texas, a man of few words, but fists that roared louder than thunder. In 1973, the world watched as this young and explosive fighter entered the ring against the reigning champion Joe Frazier. And what followed was nothing short of a massacre. Within just 2 rounds, Foreman dropped Frazier 6 times, leaving no doubt who the new king was. It wasn't just a win, it was a statement, loud, brutal, and unforgettable. That night, the heavyweight title changed hands, and the world realized a new monster had arrived in boxing. George Foreman was raw power personified. His punches didn't just land, they crushed. But Foreman's story was far from over. He would go on to face legends, rise, fall, and rise again, becoming one of the only men in boxing history to regain the heavyweight title after the age of 45. A warrior in his youth, a comeback king in his maturity, and a legend for all time. His journey is the kind that lives forever in boxing history. Sandy Sadler, the fierce warrior from Boston, and one of the most dominant featherweights of the late 1940s. With an astonishing 144 wins, only 16 losses, and a jaw-dropping 103 knockouts, Sadler wasn't just a boxer. He was a force of destruction in a division known more for finesse than power. But what truly carved his name into boxing history was his legendary rivalry with Willie Pep. They clashed 4 times, and their brutal, contrasting styles made it one of the greatest rivalries in American boxing history, as even Britannica acknowledges. Pep was the technical genius, Sadler was the storm. And time after time, Sadler's relentless power overwhelmed even the most skilled defensive master. He didn't just beat opponents, he broke them down. In an era defined by speed and skill, Sandy Sadler reminded the world that raw power, grit, and heart could still rule the ring. He wasn't just a champion, he was the heartbeat of a brutal, beautiful era. Tony Canzoneri. A true titan of the early 20th century, a name that still echoes through boxing history. With an incredible record of 137 wins, 24 losses, and 10 draws, Canzoneri wasn't just a boxer. He was a master technician with a warrior's heart. What set him apart? He became a world champion in 3 weight classes at the same time: featherweight, lightweight, and junior welterweight. A feat so rare, it turned him into a living legend of his era. Tony's speed, ring IQ, and unshakable determination allowed him to outclass bigger men, faster fighters, and tougher opponents, time and time again. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but every time he stepped into the ring, he made history. In an age where champions were forged in blood, sweat, and 15-round wars, Canzoneri stood tall, a symbol of skill, grit, and timeless greatness. Jimmy baby-faced assassin McLarnin, a relentless warrior who lit up the boxing world between 1923 and 1936 with his speed, skill, and savage precision. He walked away with 54 wins, 11 losses, and 3 draws. And among those, 21 came by knockout. But numbers only tell part of the tale. Jimmy McLarnin wasn't just another fighter. He was a 2-division world champion, a rare feat in any era. World lightweight champion, world welterweight champion. He faced the best, feared no one, and brought a cold calm to every ring he entered, a quiet intensity that made him all the more dangerous. Behind that baby face was a calculated killer, a man who knew how to break down legends. According to Bleacher Report, McLarnin is still ranked among the top 5 welterweights of all time, despite a career that was shorter than most. And that tells us something. Greatness isn't measured by the number of fights, but by the impact of each one. Every time McLarnin laced up his gloves, he brought thunder to the canvas and carved his legacy into boxing history. Rocky Marciano, the iron-willed, granite-fisted fighter from Brockton, Massachusetts, whose story became the blueprint for every underdog chasing greatness. He finished his career with a perfect record: 49 wins, 0 losses, 43 by knockout. In a sport built on comebacks, defeats, and redemption, Marciano never tasted defeat, not once. He stepped into the ring for just 8 years, but in that short span, he created a legacy that even time hasn't been able to touch. A powerful Italian-American fighter, Rocky's raw strength, relentless pressure, and refusal to quit made him a nightmare for every opponent. His fists were heavy, his heart even heavier. He didn't dodge wars, he went straight into them, and came out every time with his hand raised. According to ESPN, Rocky Marciano remains the only heavyweight champion in boxing history to retire undefeated, a feat no one else has ever repeated. He hung up his gloves in 1955, leaving behind not just a perfect record, but an unbreakable myth. Rocky wasn't just a champion, he was a force of nature, a man whose name became synonymous with invincibility. Barney Ross, the legendary welterweight champion who fought in 81 professional bouts and was never knocked out. Not even once. Let that sink in. 72 wins, only 4 losses, and 3 draws. But more than that, Ross walked out of every single fight on his feet. He didn't just win fights. He defeated other legends, men who themselves were icons of the ring. Tony Canzoneri, Jimmy McLarnin. Ross was more than a champion. He was a champion of champions. His style wasn't flashy. It was precise, controlled, and filled with calculation. He didn't waste punches. He landed them exactly where and when they mattered. Barney Ross wasn't just a boxer. He was a reminder, that skill, discipline, and heart can overcome brute force. He taught the world that staying on your feet, in life or in the ring, is often the greatest victory of all. Ross carved his name into history as the man who never touched the canvas, a fighter who embodied grit and greatness in equal measure, a man who brought fire, honor, and fury to every round. Julio Cesar Chavez, with a staggering record of 108 wins, 6 losses, 2 draws, and an astonishing 87 knockouts, Chavez wasn't just a boxer, he was a machine of war in human form. He began his career with 87 straight fights without a single loss, a streak that seemed impossible until he made it real. Inside the ring, Chavez was relentless. He didn't dance, he didn't dodge, he hunted. Round after round, he would pressure his opponents with surgical body shots, cutting off the ring like a predator closing in on prey. Bleacher Report called him the consummate stalker-style fighter with a granite chin. And it was true. No matter how hard you hit him, he never backed down. His chin was iron, his will was unbreakable, and his pride? Pure Mexican steel. Julio Cesar Chavez was more than a fighter. He was a symbol of endurance, spirit, and national pride. He gave everything to the sport, and in return, the world remembers him as one of the greatest warriors to ever step inside a ring. But even legends like Chavez are just one part of boxing's timeless saga. If this story touched your heart, if you felt inspired by the courage, passion, and legacy of this boxing legend, then take a moment and show your support. Subscribe to our channel, Timeless Legends, and don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a moment from history. And we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Who's your favorite boxer of all time? And who should we feature next? Because these aren't just fights, they're memories, they're history, and together, we're keeping them alive.